Alright, what we're going to do today is a bit of an experiment really. It's something I've done before but not on this actual watch. And that is we're going to wet sand the watch crystal. Now when you talk about crystals, there's basically two different materials or three different materials. There's sapphire, mineral glass, and then there's acrylic. And acrylic is obviously a lighter plastic basically. They go under different names under different watches really, but if you take an example here of this Omega Speedmaster, it uses what Omega would have called Hesselite, and it's basically an acrylic. So you can tell by looking at them just that there's not a lot of refraction around the edge of this particular domed crystal, whereas when you see a sapphire one you quite often get quite a milky bluey kind of colour around the edge of it, but by touch is maybe the most reliable way of doing it. So if I just tap on the glass or on the crystal, you can hear it sounds quite light and quite hollow, whereas on this Speedmaster Mark II, this has a mineral glass crystal on it and it sounds a lot heavier. It's just, so it's got a kind of much more solid feel to it, and I can just tell by the edges of it and so on that is glass. So what we're going to do is not experiment on the nice watches. I've got a couple here that are junk from my box of things in the garage that I've acquired from various auctions and stuff, and this one on the right here, that has a mineral glass of some sort, probably a very cheap glass crystal. So you can hear it just sounds like really quite a solid, quite glassy, and the one on the left has a plastic crystal or an acrylic crystal. So again, if I can, I'll pick it up to you can just tell that it's plastic. So what I'm going to do is deliberately muck up the crystal on this one on the left here, and then we'll go about a process of wet sanding it back so we can hopefully restore it to normal service. Okay, so I would just warn and say, do not do this at home on a watch that you care about, because it might not go as well as you would hope. But what I'm going to do here is I'm going to deliberately add some texture to this crystal. So I'm just going to score it a few times, and basically if I was to look more closely at it, I don't know, you're going to see this on the video. I'll maybe throw in a high-res photo of this thing, but it's pretty scuffed up really, you might get away with wearing it, but if I was to add a couple more perhaps deeper scratches to it, then it would be less usable. Obviously I'm going to try and make sure I don't crack the damn thing, otherwise then it is a genuinely one-way operation. Alright, so we've got a damaged crystal. It's detracting from the pleasure of owning the watch, obviously not really in this case, but if this was something that had happened on a watch that I'd acquired, as I did recently, where the crystal was it looked like it was cracked, although it wasn't really, it just had some very deep scratches on it, then what we can do is go about sanding it back. Alright, so the process involves a number of different types of sandpaper, and when you look at these are specialist sandpapers rather than the stuff you buy in a DIY shop really, unless you go for very fine stuff. But they have numbers on the backs of them. Now these are just bits that I've cut off from larger sheets, so they don't all have the number intact. I think this one might be 200. This one is, I think this is 600. I can just get the damn thing around. Yeah, so that's 600, then I've got 1000, and then I've got 2000. So as the numbers get higher, it gets finer in grain. And the idea is, what you do is take your bit of sandpaper and get it nice and wet, and then you just start basically working on the surface of the watch. So I'm just going to do this over the thing so it doesn't drip too much on the table. And initially, once you start this process, your heart is going to skip a beat, because you're really screwing up the surface of it to the extent where you can barely see what's underneath it after a bit. But yeah, if this is genuinely the last resort before replacing the crystal, then you've almost got nothing to lose. Now I would say you probably, if this is what you would care about, is take the strap or bracelet off, maybe even take the movement out of the case, and then seal the whole thing up as good as you can with masking tape or other types of electrician's tape, but in this case, again, I don't actually care about this watch, and it probably doesn't work anyway. So so what we've basically done here is I've flattened the worst of the scratches off to some degree using the more coarse sandpaper. And at the moment I'm not too bothered about circular motion and what have you. But I've still got a few that I can see here. Should probably have a stronger light on this so I can actually see what I'm doing. Anyway, so we've got the beginnings of that thing flattened off here. So we'll carry on down the line with slightly finer sandpaper now. So this is us down to the 600, and I did realise that I forgot to take a picture of it before I'd started sanding it. But anyway, so again, we're just going to give this a going over. And again, if this was something that I really cared about, I might take a bit more time and care over it. But I'm just doing this kind of quickly to get the principle of it across. So this is 600 grit. I can feel that's making an improvement already. Give it a quick wipe with a cloth, and I'll carry on. We'll go down to 1000. Now you could use Polywatch to take off some of the lighter abrasions on an acrylic crystal. However, if you've got really deep scratches, you could be there for hours just rubbing away with Polywatch, and it's quite a frustrating thing because you don't really see the difference. With sanding it, you really do see a difference very quickly, and you can always finish it off with some Polywatch. Or in fact, if you've got a car with any kind of plastic headlights or plastic windows on it, then Maguire's do some really nice polish for plastic, as in acrylic, which is probably a bit more aggressive than Polywatch, but it's also by milliliter a lot cheaper. So that's another option. Okay, so here we go. We're just gonna give this a good going over with 2000 grit. I'll probably give this a bit more of a polish away from the camera where I can see what I'm doing, but you can see that's almost brought it back to normal. Okay, so I've now gone over the watch again with the different grades of sandpaper, and as I mentioned, it's you start with the coarsest and you end up with the finest, and towards the end it's probably worth doing it with a loop on, just so you can make sure you're getting to the edges correctly and you're not going over the edges, and do it in a circular motion and everything. But anyway, so I'm now going to give it a final going over. Could use Polywatch here. This thing is like, well, hardly any left in this tube, but it's a 5-gram tube costs about £5. This is Maguire's Plastex, and this is a 10 fluid ounce, or best part of 300 millilitres, and it's like 15 quid, so it's substantially less expensive, and I think, as I said, it's a bit more effective for sort of deep cleaning than Polywatch is. So all I'm going to do is put a little dab of this on my microfiber cloth. It's a bit more than a dab, but never mind. And then we'll give the watch a bit of a going over with that, so I'll just rub some of that on, and then I'll just give this a few minutes of rubbing, and then we'll take another look. Alright, so here we go. That's the finished article. Just only took a few seconds really rubbing with the Maguire stuff, and it's pretty much, it's not absolutely flat, but it's near as damn it flat, and for the sake of a few minutes of playing with it, that's a pretty good job done. So hope you enjoyed this. Keep watching, keep subscribing, as Harry Metcalf would say, and we'll see you again soon. Bye.